Okay, guys, good morning. Good to see you here at Vision Church. If I haven't met you yet, I'm Matt, and I like chocolate. Does anybody like chocolate? Okay, last week we gave away some chocolate. If you behave and listen the whole time, I may give that to you. So keep an eye out for chocolate. That's going to come back up in a minute. Like Mike said, we are celebrating Palm Sunday today, and I hope you join us for Palmapalooza. In fact, one of our students asked me, he said, man, did we get that name from like Orange or the company? I said, no, man, that's our team. Our Viz Kids team came up with Palmapalooza for your kids. Stay after church today. We're going to be right in there. It starts just minutes after the service, and I'm being there with my daughter as we do some fun stuff and celebrate Palm Sunday, which again, like Tabitha said, is the Sunday that Jesus came into Jerusalem, knowing what was coming that next week of his death, his resurrection. But today we're continuing our Alias series. We've been talking about Jesus, this guy that we read about throughout the Bible. And if you came in today saying, man, I don't even know if I believe that thing or understand about Jesus, we're just so glad you're here. We're glad you're here to listen to a kind of our perspective on this guy, Jesus, the aliases we've been talking about. That he's our friend, which that's great news. He is our warrior, and that certainly is great news. I know I need somebody looking out for me. He is our counselor. We talked last week about him being the one who gives us peace, and that we can even be ambassadors of peace to other people. And today we're talking about leader. And I love this term leader. So if you haven't got one yet, your takeaway card, which is kind of your notes and something to help you during the week, is in the seat in front of you. Somewhere in that row in front of you, there's a takeaway card. If you don't have one yet, make sure you get one. And you can both take notes today, but also it gives you a chance to continue this throughout the week. You can dig into the Bible and both look at the verses from today, but also some other passages that we found that will connect with today's message to help you go deeper into your study and your learning about Jesus. Like Mike also mentioned, we're in social media. We want you to join the conversation during the week in Facebook and Twitter. You can hashtag Vision Alias. You can go to visionchurchgaston.com for us. Catch us online, get information, and you can even watch past sermons if you want to. So we want you to catch all information and go with us on this journey. Because as we talk today, this concept of leadership, and I love digging into leadership, and today we're looking at Jesus as, I believe, the ultimate leader of all time, and what he wants us to do with that. So first of all, I want to talk for a minute about Vision Church, because I tell you guys, what we're trying to do here is not easy, okay? We've been open for about 10, 11 weeks, and what we are trying to do is impact a community so that people that me and you come in contact with each week, that they would have a chance for life change. Because, I was out this week walking our neighborhood, talked with Meg and our kids were walking, and we got the dogs with us. I mean, we're just a big old posse rolling through the neighborhood, all these people and dogs and stuff. But, we're walking through the neighborhood, and I pointed at a house. They're maybe 10 doors down, and I said to Meg, I have no idea who lives there. I know nothing about them. But you know what? I think God has put us in this area to somehow impact them. And a couple doors later, another house. I said, we know nothing about them. Don't know if they go to church or not. Don't know if they have kids or not. But it kind of hit me. It was like, you know what? We have an opportunity as a church to try to take something we believe and pass on this important message to our community. And we do that because we have a leader we follow. His name is Jesus. And as we look today at his mission and how that carries out into our lives today, I want you to take very seriously what I talk about. I certainly want us to walk out encouraged, but also challenged about this important message that we've been given and how Jesus wants us to take it and share it with people who maybe have never heard about this good news that we talk about and we sing about. Now, our bottom line today, you can see it on the screen in your notes, is that I have to decide every day who's going to be the leader of my life. I have to decide every day who's going to be that leader. Because if you're like me, honestly, most days you wake up and you're pretty much being real. I'm thinking about number one. Maybe I'm thinking about number two, and maybe like 3, 4, and 5, like anybody underneath my roof. And after that, honestly, it sometimes is so hard to think about anybody else because we're busy, we're hurried, we're stressed. But Jesus says, think about this bottom line. Who's going to be the leader of your life? Every day of our lives, we need to think on that. And I want to talk for a minute about leadership. because I love when you watch a movie or investigate with a leader and see kind of some of the worldly perspective, worldly quotes, some good stuff about leadership. So I want to read you some of these. Well, first of all, any Braveheart fans in the room? Anybody like watching Mel Gibson, swing that sword and chop off limbs and just do incredible things? So I could have gone all painted blue face and stuff today, but I'm going to quote him for a minute. We got this up on the board. I get to do my best Braveheart. "I fight and you may die, run and you'll live, at least for a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?" Okay, I know you guys, we want to do it sometime like that. Okay, that's William Wallace. Now, another good guy flick, okay? And we'll have Guy movie night one night. We'll come in and then we'll watch the next one, Gladiator. Maximus. He says so many great things throughout the movie, but one that stood out was, what we do in this life, it echoes into eternity. That's great leadership. That's inspiring somebody to look beyond their life. All right, coming to more modern day, Warren Bennis. He says leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. I think that's pretty neat, because here actually at our church, God gave us the name Vision, which is incredible, but for us to take that and translate it into reality, that's leadership. John Maxwell, if you've ever read any of his stuff or hear him talk, he says, a leader, he knows the way, he goes the way, and he shows the way. That's the gift, the talent of leadership. And then this last one, this guy Jim Collins, who's a brilliant leader in the business world, he talks about how leaders, there are multiple levels, from guys who maybe lead a team, to a corporation, to those who influence leaders who lead others, to actually, if you go all the way up there, there's something about your character in level 5 leadership. Listen to this. He says, level 5 leaders, they channel their ego away from themselves and into the larger goal of building a great company. It's not that level 5 leaders have no ego or no self-interest. Indeed, they are incredibly ambitious. But their ambition is first and foremost for the institution, not for themselves. So he's got something there. He's saying the best leaders care about the people they lead. They truly have an interest in the people they influence. And they take their ambition and they will channel that into serving the people they lead. Now, we're talking about Jesus. 3 steps we're going to go into today. The first one is talking about Jesus as our leader. As Jesus, he came to earth, we believe, as the Son of God, and he lived on this planet for a mission. Now, the best leaders, let me tell you, they begin with the end in mind. So actually, would you say it for me? Leaders, the best leaders begin with what? The end in mind. Okay, the what? The end in mind. They think, if I'm starting on a journey, I want to figure out where I want to go, and I'm going to map out a way to get there. So Jesus, in fact, before he even came to earth, he had that end in mind, that he looked down on us as creation and said, there's sin there. There's going to have to be payment for that. He said, I will willingly be the payment for that. I will offer myself as a leader who sacrifices for the ones I love. He began with the end in mind. Now, let me talk about Jesus for a couple minutes. Because I tell you, I would love to take a whole hour and talk just about the background of Jesus as a leader. So what I would encourage you to do is, we've been reading through the book of John. If you're tracking with us on that, we're counting down to Easter next week, reading through a chapter a day in John. But I encourage you, in your year, at least read through one of the Gospels every year. The Gospels being an account by Matthew or Mark or Luke or John, where it's all about the life of Jesus. Because Jesus, here's what I see about him. I see, first of all, he was a servant leader. He served the people he was passionate about. He was a visionary leader who saw hope and potential and cast vision to that. He was a determined leader, because that's what Palm Sunday's about, that he put his eyes on Jerusalem and said, I have to go there to die for this mission. I am determined. He was a secure leader, that he could go and talk in front of people, and even they questioned him and threw stuff at him and doubted him. He said, that's okay. I believe what I believe. I'm secure in that. He was a delegating leader. where he found a group of guys and said, there's going to be a mission you need to carry out. I'm going to delegate to you. And in fact, it's expanded to millions, if not billions, of people. He's a creative leader. Remember a couple weeks ago, we talked about him being powerful and humble so that kids could come to him. They loved him. He was fun. He smiled. He did amazing things. He was a teaching leader. He took what he knew and he poured it on to people. He was a leader with authority. Remember, we talked about how people would approach him, particularly even in the Garden of Gethsemane, and his power, it knocked them back on the ground. He was so powerful. He had great authority. He was honest. He would look at you and say, I love you, but you know what? There needs to be change in your life. And he had enough honesty to do that. He was a challenging leader, that he would not veer away from a challenge, but he would go after it. He's a wise leader. Like our kids ministry talks about, making the wise choice. He indeed is the fountain of wisdom that would make wise choices, and he would say, I'll help you do that as well. And now Jesus also, I believe, he's a leader who asked the most and he offered the most. And when people considered following him, it was never an easy ask. And he would never shy away from that. And he'd say to them, my ask to you is big, my offer to you also is big. So the first passage I want to look at today, if you brought your Bible, or your phone, whatever you want to use, turn to Luke chapter 9. Because in Luke 9, Jesus has been doing amazing things. He's been doing miracles. He's healing people. He just got done feeding 5,000 people with just a little lunchbox worth of stuff. So crowds of people have been flocking to him, amazed by what's going on around him. Well, Jesus, he sits down with some of his buddies. And he says, hey guys, you see all this stuff going on? He says, who do people say that I am? And they're telling him, they're saying, Jesus, some of these guys, they say you're a great teacher or a miracle man, or that maybe you're like John the Baptist, like raised from the dead, or you're a prophet from of old. And they give him all these phrases, and he says, okay guys, who do you say that I am? And you know, have you ever been maybe in a small group environment with a leader, and they ask a question like that, and you're kind of like, I mean, I might know the answer, but I might not, so I'm going to wait and see what everybody else says. Well, Peter is the guy in this group who's always the one who goes first, and he jumps out and says, you know what? You're the Christ. You're the Messiah. And then a strange thing happens, because Jesus, he says, you're right, but don't tell anybody that. And I'm sure the guys are like, wait a second, Peter had the right answer. Why would we not tell everybody that you're the Messiah? And here's, I think, why. And this is what I encourage you. When you read in the Bible, pause and try to think about the context when Jesus says things. Because I think what Jesus was saying to them was, guys, there's a price that's going to have to be paid to save sinners. He said, I'm going to have to die for you. And in fact, if crowds start saying, this is the Messiah, this is our hero, everybody's going to love him. I'll say, nobody is going to drive him to Calvary so he would die for us. So he knows the hearts of men and how they get off track. And he says, guys, you can't let them know that I'm that kind of leader. So this is where we pick up. In Luke chapter 9, verse 23. And Jesus says to them, remember his small group of guys, he says, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. And these guys in the circle, they're like, wait a second, you just said you're the Messiah. You're the one who's going to save us. Doesn't that mean you're going to rise up as a leader and empower us and train us and challenge us, and we're going to lead like some type of a revolt, a rebellion, and overthrow? He says, no, that's not where this is going. Because remember, he's working with the end in mind. And he says to them, guys, look, I'm going to end up dying on a cross. And if you're going to follow me, you need to be willing to do the same thing. And so in verse 24 it says, for whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will save it. Because what good is it for a man to gain the whole world and yet forfeit his very self? Okay, so what Jesus is saying here, he's saying, guys, look, I'm on a mission. The Father sent me here on a mission to save you. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to lay myself down as a servant leader, as one who is going to be humble and intentional and relational and impactful. He says, if you want to go there with me, you have to be willing to also take up a cross. And if you're like me, you'd be sitting there going, that stinks. That is not what I want to hear. I want to hear, I'd have a seat at the board table. I'm going to get to make decisions with you. I'm going to get to lead crowds of people and do miracles too and have people cheer and say, good job, Matt. And Jesus says, no, that's not the kind of leader I want. I want the kind of leader who would carry a cross to your death if I asked you to. Okay, so how's that look tomorrow morning when I get up? And the reality is, a lot of mornings I get up and I say, you know what? I don't want to do that. There are a lot of days I say, hey, God, I don't want to do that. I don't want to carry a cross for you today. I don't want to reach out and serve somebody today. I'm stressed. I'm tired. My money's tight. My time's tight. What do you mean you're asking me to give or sacrifice? What do you mean that person that I see in the neighborhood, that I'm supposed to care about them? Because certainly in my heart, it sounds good, but the reality is to carry a cross is painful. And there are a lot of days, if you're like me, you say, God, either I don't want to do that, or I'm too busy to do that, or I hadn't really thought about that in a while. And Jesus says, okay. He says, am I enough for you? And I sit back and some days say, I don't know. If we're being honest, I'm saying, I don't know. I'm not sure. Some days I say, yes, you're definitely enough for me. I'm going to take that hill. I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to give myself to my family, even when they squabble and do this and take from me, but I'm going to serve them. Jesus says, really, am I enough for you? Are you going to be that type of a leader, that type of a servant? Well, the second piece of this is about Vision Church and leading people to Christ. Because there's something about coming in here and hearing from our leader and saying, okay, Jesus, salvation, this gift you offer me is incredible, but you know, truly, our mission here is to lead people to Christ. That's why we do this. We want to see them live out God's vision for their life. We're going to do that. Well, our next passage comes from Matthew. And if you flip over there, I want to give you the backstory on Matthew 28. Because Matthew 28 is kind of the end, just about the end of Jesus' story. And truly, what we believe here at Vision Church is that by Matthew 28, Jesus had died and went in a tomb, and he rose from the dead. And I know sometimes in church world, it almost seems like, it just happened. You understand? He rose from the dead. I mean, he was dead. And then later, Paul writes, he says, hundreds of people saw him alive again. Hundreds of people touched the scars, saw that he was alive, heard him speak again as he said, look, I've defeated sin, and this cross I was talking about carrying, now I'm passing it on to you to carry on this mission. So we really believe here in Matthew 28 that when Jesus sat with his guys, and in verse 18, listen what he said. He said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Now, first of all, think about that. This is the Son of God who has power. He's saying, all authority and power has been given to me. I'm getting ready to leave, and therefore, I'm transferring it on to you. I am giving you the authority. You think about the term authority. If you go out on this super busy section out here of traffic with Hudson and Union, and if you go out there and stand in the middle of that intersection and just wave your arms for people to stop, nobody's stopping. If anything, they think you're a madman, and they hopefully go around you. If you go out in there and you put on a vest and showing your police officer and a whistle and whatever, and you've been given the authority of the Gastonia police to go out there and stop traffic, boom, they stop. They stop. They listen to you because you've been given authority. Without that authority, you have nothing. But Jesus says, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me, and what he's implying there is that I'm giving it to you. So therefore, go and do something with this. He says, go and carry out this message. Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything that I've commanded you. And listen to the good news, surely I'm with you. Even to the end of the age, I'm with you. Now, with Jesus, This authority he gives us is something, again, we can either choose to kind of set on the side or choose to live in. And it comes from a humbling. When we humble ourselves and say, Jesus, I'll carry your mission, he says, therefore, I'll give you my authority. I'll give you power to win this battle daily over yourself. Now, this past week, we were watching Lost with our kids. They're any Lost fans? I know it's like old school, but we love Lost. Me and Meg, we love it. And so we're kind of letting our kids experience some of that. Well, Locke, the philosopher in there, it was great. He said in there, leaders, they can only lead when they know where they're going. You can only lead when you know where you're going. And so, in fact, Jesus is saying, look, you got to know the mission. The mission is not just to meet on Sundays and to feel great about what we've been given. The mission is to go out and impact people and tell them about it. It's to go out and show people that I've died for you and give you great reason to be peaceful, content, joyous. Now, step 3 in this is God wants us to lead others daily. He wants us to come in here and get encouraged, to take this message and to go out and to be this servant type of leader that serves people daily in our homes, in our neighborhoods, our workplaces. Now, leadership, let me talk about this. It's a stewardship. Okay, it's a stewardship. You know, when you're given something to manage or to maintain or to grow, it's a stewardship. So literally, the people God has put in your life is a stewardship for you to have an opportunity to manage. Now, Henry Kissinger, let me read this quote from this great leader. He says, the task of the leader is to get his people from where they are to where they have not been. So you think about the people, even the students. You think about the students you guys come in contact with at school. When you go to school tomorrow, you're giving a chance to steward somebody who sits next to you, somebody who you walk down the hallways and talk to, somebody you go sit at a ball game with. It's a stewardship Jesus has given you to influence them. So for us, we say, okay, well, how do I begin with the end in mind? Because going back to great leaders, how do I begin with the end in mind? Jesus says, look, the mission I have that has saved you is the same one for that student, for that neighbor, for that family member. So if you begin with that end in mind of saying, I'm going to try to act like Jesus, to show them Jesus, that comes out in 1 Corinthians 11:1. Because there, Paul, oh man, you talk about a tough verse in the Bible. Paul says, follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. And a lot of times I think we shy away from that and say, man, I can't even, I'm not perfect. I can't say to anybody, follow my example. I can't say to a friend at school, follow my example, because they've seen me, they know me. Well, you know what? That's our challenge. That's our end in mind of saying, Jesus, I want to live and be more like you so that my friend, my neighbor, they can see something in me that's different. They can see that you're living inside of me. Now, you may say, well, really, why do I even want to follow this Jesus? Because you know what? This is hard. He said it'd be hard. He said the ask was big. Because I tell you, the upside, the gain is huge. And I want to tell a story for a minute out of one of my favorite movies. And in fact, I need a visual for it. So, CJ, you out there? All right, hit me with that visual, man. Oh, yeah, good toss. He almost hit you, Dave. It's close. All right, okay. Well, first of all, have we got any basketball fans? Any basketball fans? Come on, I love basketball. I see the Kentucky shirt right in the middle. Okay, well, these are my guys, Michigan Wolverines. They've been watching the NCAA tournament, I admit. But anyways, but one of my favorite movies is Hoosiers. I love that movie from years back about this team, this high school team in Indiana, based on a true story from back in the 50s when a little high school got a new coach and they did some amazing things. Well, in the movie Hoosiers, Little Hickory High, Coach Norman Dale comes in and he becomes a new coach there. Well, he comes in this town and he's immediately welcomed, but kind of tentative. People are like, I don't know about new and coach and changing things. And he comes in saying, hey, we're going to change things here. We got a new focus, what we're going to do. He goes to the first practice, and there's like 6 or 7 boys. He's like, 7 boys? I thought everybody in Indiana plays basketball. And they say, well, Coach, we're a small school, and this is all we got. He said, okay, guys, well, I'm going to take you somewhere. we're changing the way we do basketball here at Hickory High. He starts setting up chairs, and they even put the balls down. They're zigzagging around. They're running sprints, and they're doing all these weird things to where the players are like, we don't like this. He says, okay, this has changed. He's walking around the town, and people are like, hey, coach, if you're going to win, you got to get Jimmy Chitwood. He is like the superstar in town. He's not on the team anymore, but if you could go convince him, man, you could really be something. This team could be something. So Coach Norman Dale, he goes to Jimmy's house, and Jimmy's out there just, shooting jumpers, and Coach is just kind of rebounding for him and tossing the ball back, and Jimmy's making shot after shot after shot. And basically, Coach Norman says to him, hey, Jimmy, I'm the new coach, and I'm taking this team somewhere. We're going to accomplish something different. And listen to this. He says to Jimmy, Jimmy, I don't care whether you play with us or not, because I'm designing something for our team, and if you want to be a part of that, we'd love to have you, but I'm not going to beg you to do it. And Jimmy keeps hitting shots, and Coach says, that's all I had to say. And he walks off, and Jimmy's next shot, if you remember, it rims out, and he misses. And you're like, that's symbolic. So Coach goes back to his team, and he's running through this stuff. They go to their pep rally, and the whole school came out, and there's these 7 boys up here, and they're trying to celebrate these boys, and they start hearing this chant of, we want Jimmy, we want Jimmy. And Coach walks up to the microphone. He says, whoa. We want you to support us for who we are, not who we are not. This is your team. I am their coach. And you could choose whether to support us. And then they walk on out. They start playing ball games. And Jimmy, in fact, he ends up joining the team. It's strange. They have this town hall meeting. We love those town hall meetings. And this town hall meeting, and basically, Coach is on trial about whether they're going to keep him or not, because he's so atypical in the way he's coaching these boys, to where he gets up, and the crowd is this rough crowd. And he walks up to him. He says, you asked me here to coach, and I'm going to coach them. He said, and where I'm taking them, he said, I apologize for nothing. And I will coach if you'll have me coach. And he walks on out. And it's really strange, because then Jimmy Chitwood walks in, and he walks up and he says, I think it's about time for me to start playing some ball. And of course the crowd goes nuts. He says, but it's based on the fact if you have Coach stay, I play. Coach goes, I go. And everybody's like, oh. And they realize, okay, we'll keep Coach, we'll keep Jimmy. And you know what? It all shifts. And they start playing these games, and the team, they're coming together, and they're heading the tournament, and they're winning ball games. And Coach is having to make even tough choices about so-and-so. He's not listening to him. He's not passing the ball. And he said, you're sitting. And the crowd's mad because he's sitting. And this other guy, he kind of got hurt, and Coach has to decide, well, it's better for you being hurt to stay out than for you to play with us even though you're injured. He's sticking to his morals here and here. They go on through the tournament. They get to the final game. And truly, he has stuck to what he's believed. And these boys have stuck with him. And he goes in the locker room with them. And he says, guys, I had a vision for something at the beginning of the season. He said, thank you for going there with me. I told you it wouldn't be easy. I told you we would have people that would not believe in what we're doing, that would want to quit on us. He said, but the bottom line is we came together as a team, and we focused on the mission. And then the final thing he says to them, he just looks at him. He says, I love you guys. And they go out, and they win the state championship. And that is what happened at that high school. And CJ, let me see if I can hit you from here. Okay, you ready? Oh, yeah, good hands. Okay, so in Coach Norman Dale, I believe we see a picture of Jesus as our leader. Because Jesus, he came to earth, and he said, I'm going to shake some things up. I'm going to do things a little bit different. And some people said, we're not going to accept that. We don't like that. We're going to quit that. We're going to oppose you in that. And you know what he did, honestly? He would go to somebody and he'd say, honestly, I don't care whether you're going to follow me or not. But if you want to, here's the journey. And some other people said, we need you out of here. We need you, removed from what you're doing. And he said, in his mind, said, that's coming. You just don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but it's coming because he had the end in mind. He trained these guys. He trained his group of guys and said, the ask is huge, but if you trust me, if you'll run sprints and dribble around chairs and do things that people say are strange, if you'll serve people and love people and believe in our mission, he said, you'll get to go somewhere no one's ever gone before. And he'd get in front of crowds of people, and some would cheer and some would boo, but he stayed focused on the mission. And he took these guys, these disciples, he took them somewhere. And he looks at us, he says, I want you to go there too. You know what? He looks at me as a man, and he says, will you serve? Truly, will you serve your wife and your kids when you don't feel like it? Will you serve your neighbor 10 doors down and get to know them? He said, Matt, will you give? And sometimes they say, Jesus, I don't want to give. He says, Matt, will you give 10% of what I bless you with? Will you give that back? And I say, I will. He says, some months I don't want to do that. I don't feel like doing that, but I do that. He said, Matt, will you talk to somebody? Remember last week, we talked about chocolate and about how sometimes you can brighten up someone's day just with chocolate. See what I did this week? I bought a couple of these, and one, I had a meeting on Friday, and I took that meeting and gave it to this lady and said, I want to brighten your day. I want to be an ambassador of peace for you. I went to Office Depot, and they do all this printing stuff for us. I said, I just want to bless you with this. And you know what? This week, when I'm going to give away a couple more chocolates around my week, I'm going to also give an invite card to Easter and say, you know what? I'm just doing this because, you know what? My God tells me just to try to be an ambassador of peace, just to bless you. And some days I'll say, man, I don't want to do that. I just kind of want to hide that in my truck and not even worry about like relationships and people. And God says, wait a second. I thought you said you'd follow me. I thought you said you'd do something different. And so what Jesus is asking us to do here at Vision is something different. It really is. He's asking us, really, am I enough for you? He's saying, will you pick up your cross? Will you read about it in here and say, Jesus, that's not too much. I will try for you this week. I will do that for you this week. And this week in particular, heading up to Easter, is the prime chance to pick up your cross. And honestly, that's pick up some chocolate and give it to somebody. And they say, why are you doing that? I said, man, I would just love for you to come to church with me. You can have the chocolate either way, but just come to church with me. And maybe walking over and meeting that neighbor. It might be stopping at a store you're at and talking to somebody at the register saying, hey, would you come to church with me on Sunday if you don't have a church home? And Jesus says, pick up your cross this week and carry it and tell people about what I've done for you. Now, in a minute, we're going to sing a song that talks about Christ being enough. And truly, that's what he's asking. He says, hey, in your world, am I enough? And honestly, some days, I don't know if he is. I mean, if I'm sitting there saying, God, I don't know if you are enough. And I come back to this, and it reminds me he is enough. Even when it doesn't feel like he's enough, he is enough.